You've got to love Nintendo. When it comes to corporation greed, dear old Mario and his chums really are the worst. If you're hoping for any last minute sales, you can forget it, as well, as Mario is up to his old tricks and dispatching both the 3DS and Wii U eShop on the 27th of March 2023, squeezing every last penny, cent and yen out of his paying customers and fans. So if there are any last minute purchases you want to make, now is the time to buy them, as you only have days left to pick these games up. At which point this video will become a list of the best games to hoist the Jolly Roger flag for. As Nintendo are doing the digital equivalent of the 1497 historical event, the Bonfire of the Vanities, and destroying every trace of every single game released on both systems. To be honest, it is borderline culture vandalism, with over 1,500 games being permanently removed from sale via the eShop when it closes, many of which are exclusive to both systems, not available on any other platforms, and likely never to be reissued ever again. If you're watching this video before the shutdown, then might I suggest you pop on the song The Final Countdown from the band Europe in the background and have a listen, and if you're watching after it goes, then put on the song Already Gone from the Eagles. I'll pop some links in the video description below for both songs, but have a listen as I chat away. Before I go any further, my name is Random Gamer Riven, the editor of Randomised Gaming, and in this video I'll be looking at some of the best games and software to buy or download for free before the eShop goes. If you enjoy this video or find it useful, then please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. You can even hit the bell button for more notifications, plus you can also find us on Twitch and Tumblr. Sadly, most of the footage in this video will be Wii U games, or I'll be using 3DS footage from trailers, as I can't easily capture real 3DS footage unless you want bad web camera stuff. Now, it's fair to say both the Nintendo 3DS and Wii U have an interesting history. Both consoles, along with the Nintendo Switch, aren't well made either. Going forward, the Nintendo hardware really is going to get worse and worse due to the price point. The Switch is really cheaply made, I have to admit, and I was quite surprised about that. The 3DS, on the other hand, has control stick which is poorly made and will break over time if you use it too much. The hinges will also break loose and crack plastic outer shelling of the console as you open and close it. The top screen can also be marked by the lower start buttons as well, so you do need to get a screen protector, and all these issues have happened to one of our older 3DS units, so you've been warned, as we did have to make some necessary repairs to it. But yes, the 3DS is not a well-built machine, sadly. Now, firstly, before I say anything else, in order to still buy Wii U and 3DS games digitally, you need to add funds to your account. In order to do this, you must link your Nintendo ID with a newer Nintendo Switch or Nintendo website account. This will allow you to link the funds between the various consoles, so that will allow you to link your 3DS and Wii U funds with your Nintendo Switch funds. You have until March 2024, they just announced the other day, to link your accounts, so I suggest you do this as soon as possible. Otherwise, you are giving any remaining funds on 3DS or Wii U to Nintendo come March 2024, and frankly that shouldn't be allowed under law. Instead, Nintendo should be forced to refund users of any unused balance. Secondly, both 3DS and Wii U have a hard limit of only allowing 300 applications on them. This includes system apps. Once you reach that limit, you cannot download any more until you delete one. The Switch has one of 1,000 games, after which it starts to act a bit strange and starts not being able to see like your first download, so that's something else to remember. The Switch also has a limit, but yes, you are only allowed 300 3DS and Wii U titles. Nintendo have also coded in some spending safeguards and fund additions onto the eShop accounts as well, so be aware of this. In the USA, you can only add a total of $1,000 onto your account each day. However, you can only have around £250 on your account at any one time. In order to add more, you need to spend some. And another caveat, if you run too many credit card transactions on a single console in a set period of time, that's over the course of say a month, then that system will be blocked from using credit or debit cards on it for 30 days. The latter happened to us after about 10 transactions in a single month, and we can no longer currently use debit or credit cards on our Switch. And what's added to this is that you mustn't use a debit or credit card once you get this block, because the block has a 30-day timer apparently, so we're going to have to wait till May to use it just to be on the safe side. But apparently if you use the card while the timer is active, it'll reset the timer, so then you'll have to wait an additional 30 days. So just wait about over a month and a half before you try using your debit or credit card again. You can, however, still add funds via the eShop cards and PayPal account. So I'm going to chat about the 3DS first and go over some of the games that I think are worth picking up and some of the quibbles with the system as well, and then I'll chat about the Wii U afterwards. On the 3DS, you also need to be aware that the default 4GB memory card size is tiny and may not include enough space to hold certain retail games on it. So far, the largest game we've downloaded for the retail version was the PAL version of Yokai Watch 2 Psychic Spectres, which clocks in at around 29,000 blocks. PAL games are larger than the US releases due to the extra languages they hold. It's roughly around 8,200 blocks per gigabyte. That's rounded up a little, that figure. I myself have upgraded to a 128GB card, which gives me plenty of room, but you will need to format these cards with a special tool, and you'll need to format them to a FAT32 file format type and set the cluster size to 32-bit kilobytes so that they work on a stock 3DS. And yes, stock 3DSs do support gigabyte cards larger than 32 gigs as listed on the Nintendo website. It's just you've got to set them up and format them correctly, although not all SD cards are compatible. The 3DS Wi-Fi is also rather slow, and if you're going to be buying a load of games, rather than downloading them the minute as we're so close to the end of days, I recommend you download everything via sleep mode once you've purchased it, as it can take up to 3 to 4 hours to download some of the bigger games. Some downloads like 3DS patches should be remaining up in the store once it's closed, although that remains to be seen, and I would personally recommend you download any patches you want for any games you plan to buy or you have bought or you haven't downloaded yet as soon as possible, rather than wait to find out what happens after the eShop closure. But supposedly they will still be available. You can also download digital DSi games to the 3DS as well. A number were released in the 3DS store, but not all of them. However, these DSi games save to the internal 3DS system memory. They cannot be run from the 3DS memory card, although you can transfer them to the memory card, then the 3DS can't see it. But the internal system memory only has around 1,000 blocks. So last week I worked on a huge list of 3DS DLCs, as the amount of games with download content just isn't at all documented well. In the end, I found over 210 plus games in Europe, Japan and North America, and that list will be missing plenty of titles too. The information is very hit and miss all over the internet. I ended up consolidating a number of sites and my own research to get probably what is currently the most complete list on the internet. And if you do find that list useful, please do consider buying us a cup of tea up on Ko-fi. It's fair to say there really has been no credible archiving sources of download content for the 3DS I could find across the internet. And the list includes both paid for download content and free to download content as well, from game and special downloads for games like Yokai Watch and Inzuna 11. The sad truth is some of this free content will be lost for good in the next few days. Now, one thing we can't say for certain if every download will go down when the eShop closes. Officially it says all downloads will terminate, however there is a chance some games don't go via the official Nintendo system and they may still work via their own internal servers that are set up, as some games have already had the online taken out. We don't know for certain. There may be a thing where the 3DS has to make a check with the Nintendo servers before it downloads anything, in which case all downloads will no longer work, but it is a bit of a waiting game to find out. But some people, I think, have said they checked a few games, and some games dial to alternative servers and don't make any sort of check with the Nintendo eShop or anything like that for the download. So some downloads, and I stress this with fingers crossed, that may still work once the eShop closes, but anything related to the eShop will definitely be gone. And I should warn people now, some games also require that you complete the game in order to access the point in the game where you can download the DLC. Yes, it was a really dumb decision on the part of the developers responsible, but in the worst cases, Professor Layton vs Phoenix Wright and Dragon Quest VII Fragment of the Forgotten Past both require you beat the game to access the DLC. That's no joke. Dragoon, who's also with me on the randomised gaming team, has had to complete Professor Layton in order to unlock the DLC, and he's not even going to try unlocking the DLC on Dragon Quest VII, despite the fact he'd progressed a large way into the game. It is like an 80-hour RPG. You have to beat it to unlock the last download stuff, although there's some suspicion that both those downloads might still work afterwards, but do be warned, it is pending on when they shut down the servers. We already know that to the RPG Maker, they've already said that the servers will be closed for it a few days after the eShop shuts down, so you've literally only got days to download it, and there is a free player version of that as well. Other games like Fire Emblem's Fate require you progress to Chapter 6 to buy the various DLC story paths and extra DLC. Games like Yokai O Watch and the Shin Megami Tensei games normally require 2 to 4 hours of gameplay to access the DLC areas, or the options to maybe be able to buy the DLC. So if you have any of those mentioned games and you intend to buy the DLC, you need to really get playing those games now in order that you can access them. Because if you start them, say, on Sunday night, you might find that you don't progress far enough into the game to unlock the area where you can buy the DLC. It is a really stupid thing that was implemented in these games. Some games, fortunately, do let you buy the DLC from the title screen, but quite a few of them require you play a way into the game to access the option to actually buy the DLC. There are a lot of digital-only games on the 3DS as well that didn't get retail releases, so it's well worth having one last look at the eShop before it closes if there's anything that does interest you. Keep in mind that the 3DS and Wii U may be the last time you can actually own the older Nintendo games as well, as there is a real ownership of video games here. As for the Nintendo Switch, so far all the retro games are tied to a paywall subscription rental service, for want of a better word, and I refuse to pay for it. I think Nintendo are absolutely disgusting for doing that. It really is deplorable, the fact that you cannot buy these games. You basically tie to a rental service that once they shut down that rental service, you'll lose access to all those games. And based on how happy they are to kill the eShop, this is a really worrying sign. I think really Nintendo should reconsider some of this stuff, because their reputation as a family company is deplorable now. They are really a greedy, money-grabbing company. Both the Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, which have been out longer, still have their stores operational, although the caveat there is the PS3 Sony were going to shut down, but then stopped after they got so much negative PR. But yes, there are some great virtual console games. So you've got NES and Game Boy games, and there's a fair few expensive titles physically that are available on the eShop, like Trip World, which I highly recommend, a really great little platformer. If you have a new 3DS, you can download some SNES games to it as well. There were some SNES games released, I believe, and GBA ones released via the Ambassador program as well. And technically, SNES games do work on a standard 3DS, but you can't download them from the store. They did it purely as a thing for if you've got a new 3DS. So bear in mind, there are some games that only work on the later 3DS model known as the new 3DS, or the new 2DS model if you have the new 2DS, which is the 3DS without the 3D function. Two games I would put on the watch list are Summer Carnival 92 Rebecca and The Mysterious Mashusum Castle, which got their first Western releases on the system, or the 3DS system, digitally. There's also the special version of NES Donkey Kong, which includes the missing stages that weren't in the original NES version. Finally, there's a select number of Game Gear games on the system as well, many of which it's unclear if they will be reissued again anytime soon. Shining Force: The Sword of Hyja, which is known as Shining Force Gaiden 2 in Japan, is well worth a pickup, as this is the only time the Game Gear English release has got a European release. It was originally North American only. But yes, I would highly recommend having a look at the Game Gear games. I can't see Sega reissuing the Game Gear games on the Switch at the minute. However, the Sonic Game Gear games have been announced that they will be coming to the Sonic Origins Collection Plus Edition, which is an upgrade for Sonic Origins. There are some nice DSi Ware games as well, such as the port of Rayman, Dragon's Quest Wars and Commando Steel Disaster, which is a great Metal Slug clone, and that didn't get a physical release in Europe, only a digital one. There's also the Game & Watch DSi titles as well, and quite a few other really great DSi digital-only games. I will include a link to a feature I read about them that lists a number of them, although it didn't include some of the ones I've just mentioned, some of the Game & Watch stuff. Sadly, the excellent Earthbound Jim DSi port was delisted back in 2018, as was the Mr. Driller. I don't think the Mr. Driller ever came to 3DS. There were a few DSiWare games that weren't ported to 3DS or weren't released in certain regions as well, and I think there were some issues porting some DSiWare games to the 3DS as well. There were a couple of website reward titles like WarioWare Touched for DSi and Flipnote Studio and My Nintendo Picross The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess. If you do have enough platinum points, buy them now. I bought a few themes yesterday and would notice that the redemption date ended on the 25th for the theme, so you've only got a few days left to redeem all the redemption stuff. Sadly, the WarioWare Touched version was delisted for DSi a long time ago, but you can still get Flipnote Studio and The Legend of Zelda Picross. However, you do need to have enough points. You cannot accrue enough points between now and the shutdown date, sadly. You need the Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess took about 7 or 8 weeks, as I recall. There are quite a lot of interesting apps to download for 3 and a few 3 games as well. So in Europe, the game Diggerdan DX and Kid Trips have been made free to download by the developer, which was really nice. Their other game, which I think was Milo and something, was supposed to be made free, but for some reason the shop price wasn't updated, so you still have to pay for it if you want to get that one. But they said they wanted to make all 3 free. But yes, Diggerdan DX and Kid Trip, which is a really nice gesture from the developers. I thank the developers 4 Horses for doing that. It's a really nice gesture. Their games are available in other formats as well. There are quite a lot of demos as well, so keep an eye on some of the special demos. But in the tool front, Save Data Transfer Tool is available to download. That allows you to move save files from a retail card to a digital version. Really, Nintendo should leave that up. But yep, that's one tool. There is the RPG Maker Fez player that I briefly mentioned earlier. That allows you to play. You can download that for free, and then you can download people's games to play. Admittedly, I couldn't find a good list of games to download. It's a bit messy, that one, but you can still download. You can download that and download some 3 games to play prior to the shutdown. Remember, I said they're shutting down the servers at the end of the month. There is the Mario Party Star Rush Party Guests download tool, which is free to play and allows one person who has the cartridge, if you have this application, to be able to play with someone who doesn't. So basically it means 3 players can have the app, 1 person can have the game. That's a really nice tool if you've got Mario Party Star Rush. Download that. Even if you don't have the game, I recommend downloading that one. There is the Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate Data Transfer tool that allows you to move save files between the 3DS and the Nintendo Wii U version. So if you've got Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, I do. I've already downloaded that as well. There is actually a Wii U transfer app as well, I notice, on the Wii U. So download it and vice versa. Finally, Monster Hunter Generations Save Data Transfer app is for the 3DS and Nintendo Switch versions of Monster Hunter Generation. So yes, there's save data transfer apps for Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate and Monster Hunter Generation, so do download them if you intend to have those games. Certainly if you've got them games on the 3DS and want to play them on the respective formats. So there are some really good free games to download that you can still play without once they shut down the eShop. Some are going to be a bit problematic. So the Nintendo Badge Arcade is one, but that might become inoperable once the eShop gets shut down, as that seemed to connect to the Wi-Fi and the network. There's Pokemon Picross, which is a really nice puzzle game. That one you can unlock everything in-game without paying for anything, but you have to use the daily Picross puzzles, and that will take you over a year to earn enough Picross to unlock everything, but it's a really good game. I do highly recommend if you enjoyed Picross puzzles. Pokemon Rumble World is available digitally, although there is a retail version of that. Pokemon Shuffle is free to download as well, as is Team Kirby Clash Deluxe. That's another really great fighter, but again, there are certain features in that I think might become inoperable because you have to pay for certain things to unlock certain other things. I think there were certain currencies or something, as I recall playing it, I might be wrong on this, that couldn't be accessed unless you paid for something. One that's totally free is the Miitopia casting call as well, so that's worth grabbing as well. Now, there are a wealth of demos, and quite a lot of demos have save function transfers and 3 gifts and other items. So demos you should definitely download because you can get exclusive content from them. Monster Hunter Stories has an exclusive special costume, so download that. Pokemon Sun and Moon special demo version unlocks an Ash's Green Ninja, a special Pokemon to use in the main game. You can only get via that demo. So basically it's actually Ash's, the character Ash's, it's his Green Ninja. Probably if I mispronounce that name, but I'm doing this in a bit of a hurry. But yeah, download that demo. I think that's got infinite uses as well. So Pokemon Omega Ruby and Pokemon Omega Sapphire also allow you to get special Pokemon from it, although I think it's just generic ones. But it's Steelix and Steel XT in Japan, and you can get a Galai and a Galatite in the rest of the world. You can transfer some items as well. Apologies if I mispronounce those Pokemon names. Monster Hunter Stories is definitely one because of that 3 costume, which is exclusive to the demo. So I think you only literally need to have the demo played once and it will unlock. Quite a few other games have special demos, including Codename Steam, which allows you to unlock 2 special weapons, although I should warn you that does have a play limit of 30, and you need to make sure that you still have a play limit left in order to transfer over the items. Any demo that lets you transfer over the items and has a play limit, you need to have at least 1 play left in order to transfer over the items. Bravely Defaulted Demos is a special sub-story not in the main game, and Bravely Defaulted 2 has an even more impressive prequel story that actually takes place before the main game, so definitely get those 2 games. Annoyingly, Bravely Defaulted Demos has a play limit, but the Bravely Layered, that's the second, or Bravely Second in certain versions, the demo is known as the Ballad of the 3 Cavaliers, and that's a special one. Yokai Watch 2 has a special demo version, which I believe had a special story and secret battles, although I couldn't see if you could transfer over content. There are quite a lot of other demos with transfer functions where you can transfer over some minor items as well. Kirby Battle Royale demo allows you to unlock Meta Knight early, otherwise you have to reach the Platinum League to unlock him. And supposedly Detective Pikachu is a special demo. Ever Oasis's demo has some special functions as well, supposedly. A few others like the Keep, I think, allow you to transfer over save content as well. 7th Dragoon 3 and a few others there. I've got them all in the demo list on the spreadsheet if you want to look. Now, there are an awful lot of digital only games on the 3DS. Some of my picks that I'm just going to quickly go through over here, just mentioning the names, include Attack of the Friday Monsters, a Tokyo Tale, Tank Troops, Metroid Prime Blast Ball, there's a Chilby Robot Let's Go Photo, although I don't know how good that one is, Steel Diver Sub Wars, which is the follow-on to the previous Steel Diver game. It's really good. That one is a 3-to-play one, but you really need to spend the $8.99 to unlock everything in it. Hana Samurai Art of the Sword, Dr. Mario's Miracle Cure, Splash or Crash, which is a slightly crazy game, known as Sploosh in North America, Harmony Knight. Another quite cool puzzle game is Speed Through Pot's Puzzle, which was another Nintendo one. That again is known in America as Quetzal Corridors. There are the 3 Denpa Men games, which a lot of people said are really good. And there's the Legend of the Dark Witch games that I've recently picked up. They're all on sale at the minute, although they're going to go off sale in like the next day or 2. But they're quite good Mega Man clones. You have the guild games like Liberation Maiden and Crimson Shroud, although I have to admit I didn't rate Crimson Shroud that much. I think a lot of people raved about it, but it got very repetitive very quickly. So for Pokemon fans, I should definitely make them aware of Pokemon Dream Radar, which is a 3DS digital game that is compatible and works with Black and White 2 and some of the earlier DS games that allows you to move Pokemon. You can basically discover Pokemon in an AR thing and actually transfer them into Black and White 2. In fact, I think you need it to transfer certain Pokemon into Black and White 2 as well. There's also the very important Pokemon Bank that allows you to move Pokemon between the 3DS and DSi games and the classic ones if you've got them digitally. However, there's a caveat. In order to get them off the digital classic games, you need to download the Pokemon Teleporter, which is accessed inside the app, and once the eShop closes, all downloads aren't going to work, so we have a suspicion the teleporter may no longer work as a download. However, Pokemon Bank does even need to access the eShop in order to do anything, so I'm not quite sure how this is going to work. But I think we're going to run the risk of actually just paying it for the last few days just to download the teleporter to be on the safe side, because if they don't let you download the teleporter, then you won't be able to access Pokemon from the digital classic games, which I think is going to be a big problem for Nintendo because they're not making it clear. They claimed they were going to make it 3 through the mid-end of March, but we're now well into the end of March and it's still not 3 yet. So yeah, really disgusting practice by Nintendo there. Do look out for the 3D Classic games as well. There's quite a lot of them. So you get the Nintendo 3D Classics. I think Kirby Adventure was probably one of the best ones, and Kid Icarus. But there's also the Sega 3D Classics as well. There's quite a lot of Sega 3D Classic games. There was a bundle compilation as well. Annoyingly, that bundle includes Power Drift but doesn't include Outrun. So Power Drift is exclusive to the retail collection that is available digitally as well. And there's also single releases of all the games. And Outrun and a couple of others are only available in the single release. Afterburner 2 was in a single release as well, but that's since been delisted, so you can't get Afterburner 2 anymore. But if you want some really great ports of some classic Sega games, grab them now before they're gone. This shutdown, of course, is also the last time you'll be able to grab digital editions of retail games, and in some cases the digital editions are going to be cheaper and easier to obtain than retail versions. So as an example, Yokai Watch 2 Psychic Spectres, Yokai Watch Blasters, Cat Squad and White Dog Squad, and Yokai Watch 3 all have extremely limited retail releases on the 3DS, primarily as they are extremely late games. In fact, Yokai Watch 3 was released by Nintendo, and Nintendo really seemed to hate the Yokai Watch games as well, so they seemed to give them next to no marketing or anything. But basically the third one was released in late December 2018 and got next to no coverage or release, and if you want to grab it, now's the chance. So you do get a 3 DLC code for a character in game as well, so if you buy them now you're going to have to literally play through to access these characters, because you have to get to like chapter 2 or 3 depending on the game to be able to download these additional characters. Basically, if you buy them, you'll get a digital code. These characters are only included in the digital version as well. But yeah, there are some really great games that got very limited retail releases, and the digital option is the better option to pick them up. But sadly, of course, very soon the digital option will no longer be an option to buy. One other 3DS digital only game I have really enjoyed is Chicken Wiggle. And this is a retro style 2D platformer that reminds me a lot of the Amiga era. It looks great and it plays great, and added to that, it does have the functionality to upload, download and create your own levels. Whether that functionality remains to be seen, sadly, but there are some official levels you can download from the download side of it, which is quite nice. So on top of the initial story levels, there are some extra official levels. What's funny about it is that there's actually supposed to be a Nintendo Switch version that was started on a 2018 Kickstarter. Sadly, however, at present, the Kickstarter backers are still waiting for release of the Nintendo Switch version, which is known as Hatch-tailed. There's lots of angry people in the comments on the Kickstarter, I notice now, but yeah, currently that Switch version is nowhere to be seen, sadly. Yes, that's where I'll leave the 3DS, and yes, there is a lot, but do check out that spreadsheet I've listed of special demos, free games, and all the games I could find DLC for. If you know a game I'm missing, please do let me know. I want to include as many as I can. I will update it even after the shutdown. Now I have to admit, on the Wii U front there's nowhere near as much to talk about, because the Wii U was not a success, and indeed a large chunk of the Wii U's back catalogue of games have already been ported to the Nintendo Switch with additional content. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm not going to mention games like Mario Kart 8 really, because they've got more content and more, same with Smash Bros, FES Sessions and quite a lot of other games. I'm just going to talk about the games that are still Wii U exclusive, as there are a few that have digital content that you can't get on the Switch. Now, one game that did have special DLC for it that I recommend you download now is Sonic the Lost Worlds. It is available on PC, but there was some special Nintendo DLC released. One was based on Yoshi and one was based on the Legend of Zelda series of games, and they are two exclusive levels only available on the Wii U version. Both are available to download for free, and annoyingly, if you have the Sinister 6th edition, that came with a 3 download code for the Knights edition stage. The only way to get that stage is via that download code, and if you've got Sinister 6th edition and your code isn't used up, download it ASAP now, because you've only got days to be able to redeem it before the eShop's closed and you can no longer access it. The Knights DLC is available for free in the PC version, but the Wii U version is the only one that can have all 3 DLCs, provided you have the Sinister 6th edition. Sadly, I did tweet Sega to say, well, you're going to make the Knights DLC 3, but they didn't. So yeah, Sega not doing great really with their PR marketing image either. None of the Sega games have been put on sale either, just to warn you as well. Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild has a download language pack, so if for any reason you need that, download that now while you still can. I believe all the 3 DLC is going to be yanked. Xenoblade Chronicles X also has a load of free DLC as well. That's basically for the retail version. Basically, they are special data packs that allowed the retail version to load quicker. Apparently, if you have the digital version, they are already included as it's digital, but if you have the retail version, if you want the game to load quicker, you need to download these packs ASAP. I believe, again, they will be delisted. Now, there aren't a huge amount of digital-only games really worth grabbing on the Wii U. There was, unfortunately, a lot of shovelware on it. There's a couple of interesting, quirky games, a couple of sort of side bits, but I think the main ones that I should probably mention are Affordable Space Adventure, which is a really, really good title that makes some ingenious use of the gamepad as you explore basically a planet. The story premise is hilarious. You basically buy a packaged holiday tour in a spacecraft. You're supposed to go to some wondrous planet. You end up in some really unspeakable world, so it makes you wonder if you've been scammed or something, but basically you got all lightning strikes, thunderstorms, you're stuck in caves. The ship that's supposed to deliver you's crashed, and basically you're then exploring it, and you've got to fix your ship as you go along to basically explore. Some great puzzles, and it's multiplayer as well, so really good. There are a couple of free ones as well, designed to try and flog you amiibos. They're literally just amiibo adverts, but you've got Amiibo Touch and Play, which was one of them, and the other was Mini Mario and Threnz. Now, both of those games need amiibos to even play them. Mini Mario and Threnz is basically additional levels for Mario vs Donkey Kong Tipping Stars, and that one basically allows you to, the only difference is that 3-1, in order to do certain levels you need set amiibo, so it basically makes you buy a ton of amiibos to play it. The Amiibo Touch and Play is literally a NES demo game. It's utterly disgraceful, so Nintendo doing some really cheap and nasty things there. Literally just gives you put in an amiibo and you basically get to play a demo of a NES game. It's pretty shocking, quite frankly. But it's free, so you can download it for free, and if you've got amiibos, at least download them both while they're still free and available to use. There was the NES Remix, which weren't bad, although there was a double pack, but they were released digitally, and there was also a double pack, I believe, physical. Although I'm not sure if the double pack was released in all regions. Bike Rider UltraDX is quite a cool one. I highly recommend that one. I'd only recently come across the Bike Rider series. It's good fun, and there were a couple on 3DS as well, although not that many on 3DS actually got released over here in Europe. Most of them seem to be Japan only. Buddy and Me Dream Edition is quite an interesting endless runner. It's not a very big game, but it was really cheap when I grabbed it, and it's quite a nice little relaxing game. Got some nice music. You can unlock the various seasons to try and get your scores in. You can unlock costumes. It was originally an iOS game, and it's only got a Wii U port on console. Chasing Aurora is an interesting flying one. Reminds me a bit of Knights and the Link system in that's Knights into Dreams. It's got a really nice visual style. There is it's primarily a multiplayer game. The single player content isn't great, but there is some with the trials. But yeah, it's probably better as a multiplayer game. It could have done with a bit more AI and a bit more content, I will admit, but it is a Wii U exclusive, so it might be worth grabbing if you enjoy that thing. Dr. Luigi was of course another Wii U game. Again, it's just Dr. Mario with Luigi, but there's a few extra modes, so it's quite good fun. Again, not that cheap though, they're quite pricey. Mario vs Donkey Kong Tipping Stars is one to grab. That's quite good fun, as I mentioned that just previously. That is basically a more expanded version of the 3 one. However, I should give a caveat that you can no longer access quite a lot of the content for it, as Nintendo have already shut down the servers for it, which is nice of them. Pokemon Rumble U is actually a really fun little sort of scrolling beat-up. I really enjoyed that one. I did play that on stream. Really great game. Pullblox World is another one. That's another really good one. There's quite a few Pullblox games on 3DS as well. Same with the Pokemon Rumble games. There's quite a few of both on 3DS and Wii U, and they're all really good games. I highly recommend them. And that's actually largely it for the digital-only games. There are some other ones. I'm sure people, if you know one, please do recommend them in the comments. People can look them up. In future I will include, if I find any more digital games that I quite like, I'll put them into the video description because I can't cover everything in this video. I'd like to. Now, one area the Wii U absolutely shines in is the Virtual Console. There were a lot of games released on it in the Virtual Console, not as many as I'd like, but the Wii U technically supports pretty much every Nintendo format prior to it. So it supports the GBA, it supports the NES, it supports the Super Nintendo, it supports the N64, it supports the Wii via back catalogue, it can actually play Nintendo DS games as well thanks to the gamepad, and there are a few Nintendo DS downloads, and of course there's also PC Engine games you can download as well. Added to that, technically via the Super Game Boy and GBA, you could technically do Game Boy and original Game Boy Colors as well, and via the Wii you can also do GameCube, so it's technically could be a go-to Nintendo console for playing every previous generation prior to it, bar, in fact in theory it might even be able to do 3DS as well. And there really were some gems on it, and seeing as how, as I mentioned about the ownership issue, this is going to be your last chance to grab some really great gems. There are quite a few games on it that I can't see being released anytime soon as well. So first off, there are a chance to grab some really rare games on it. So stuff like the Fire Emblem on Nintendo DS is available on it. That is quite expensive to get a retail copy these days, so I would highly recommend grabbing that if you're a DS fan. In fact, Super Mario DS as well, it's great to play on. You can get the N64 and you can get Super Mario 64, the N64 version, and you can get the Nintendo DS version, and both play really great, and I highly recommend them. It's almost a Metroid console as well. You can get Metroid Prime Hunters, most of the you can get the GBA ones, you can get the SNES one. The only one you can't get is the Game Boy one, but you can get pretty much all the others on it. So again, a really great selection of stuff there. Klonoa Empire of Dreams is one to get on the Game Boy Advanced because that is pretty rare. Basically, I don't know what it is. Namco never support Klonoa. Klonoa is a really great series of platform games. I absolutely love the character, but for some reason Namco do not market him. They just throw him out the window each time, like, here's your game, and then just chuck it out the window. They do not market it. I don't think any of his games have ever done well, despite the fact they are brilliant titles and deserve a lot more respect, partly because Namco do not market their own game. But one of the Game Boy Advance ones is available on the service to buy, and they are extremely hard to track down in the real world, I will admit. You also have games like Earthbound Beginnings, and as far as I'm aware, this was the NES one that was released. And as far as I'm aware, this NES one is only available via the Wii U. It is actually on the Switch service, but as that's a rental service, effectively it's the Wii U release, so do grab it while you still can. And another one to talk about is Super Mario Advanced 4. And the reason I want to talk about Super Mario Advance 4 is that, of course, is the Super Mario Bros. 3 rendition on the Game Boy Advance. However, there is a caveat with it that it's actually a modified version of the game to include all 38 additional e-reader levels. Now, not all the e-reader functionality is included, so the demo cards, and I think there was the other cards, the playback cards, aren't available, but it does mean 38 additional levels are available to play. And here in Europe we never got the e-reader, which was an accessory for the Game Boy Advance, as it was a massive flop, I believe, but we never got it here in Europe. And basically it added in 38 additional levels, and originally the GBA cartridge can only hold up to 32, I believe. So this version is a modified version with all 38 included. So, and I'm just showing the footage in the background here, there's some 38 really great levels, basically almost like a new game for Mario that were originally that you could not access in the Game Boy Advanced one here in Europe, but now you can via this version. So definitely download this one. If there's one Mario Advance game to get this one for the additional levels. They are great, and they're also blooming hard. Now finally, I should also talk about the NES Zapper. Yes, the NES Zapper. A couple of Virtual Console games were released on the NES that supported the Zapper, which was awesome. I really wish they'd done more. I wish they'd done some of the Super Scope ones for SNES as well. However, you can get versions of Duck Hunt, Hogan's Alley, Wild Gunman, and Bayou Billy on the NES. Now, while I'm not a huge fan of the original Duck Hunt, it's a very minimal game. I really enjoy Hogan's Alley. Wild Gunman I think is quite nice, although the factor of the target pointer kind of removes the draw functionality, because you don't draw it, you can just literally hold the zapper over them, so that does miss a bit. But all these games are really, really good. In fact, Bayou Billy's got some like proper Operation Wolf sections. Bayou Billy is not totally a light gun game. You have to select game mode A. You can still buy it and play it if you don't have and play it without a Wii remote. Bayou Billy is more, it's got scrolling, beat 'em up and racing sections, but basically, and I think you can play it with the cursor as well, but basically there are a couple of stages that support the light gun, and if you have that one downloaded, you can use the Wii remote to act as a light gun. It is really nice, it does work quite well. It does make them a little bit easy, but yeah, Duck Hunt, you can shoot the ducks, or you can do some clay disc shooting. Hogan's Alley is 3 separate modes where you do, first off you get the targets that flip, then you get the target in the stage, and then there's also the can shooting game, and finally Wild Gunman has you drawing and shooting enemies, and there's also a straight out saloon shootout, which is quite good. I prefer the saloon shootout. I don't think the draw mode works that well. Definitely my pick would be Hogan's Alley and Bayou Billy, although Duck Hunt's still good fun. Probably Wild Gunman's still pretty good, but if you're going to get them, get all 4. I can't see them being made available on Switch, and I suspect this is probably the last time we'll see any of the light gun games for a very, very long time. We still haven't seen a light gun accessory, so it's hard to see if we will get one in due course. But I would like to see, I do enjoy playing light gun games. Still, I would like to see them come back into fashion. Now, lastly, I'm going to do a quick couple of special mentions for series that might not reappear again. So there are a couple of Harvest Moon games, 2 on Wii U. That is, there's the N64 Harvest Moon and the Super Nintendo Harvest Moon, and I think there's at least 2 on 3DS. There's a Game Boy ones. There may be 3 or 4 Game Boy ones. I thought it was 2, but there might be more. There's quite a few actually on Game Boy, at least 3. But if you don't have them, I'd recommend downloading them. Marvelous Entertainment, the developer, has also said you should download them. The reason being is they were localized in the West by Natsumi, and Marvelous Entertainment used to make them. Now, Marvelous Entertainment brought up the original developers and published and developed the later games. Natsumi published them in the West. Natsumi and Marvelous Entertainment have had a massive falling out, and even Marvelous Entertainment have basically said, buy them now because we don't think we'll be able to reissue the original games for some time. Basically, they're going to have to wait for Natsumi's copyrights to close, and Natsumi control the name Harvest Moon, I believe, which presents a problem. So grab them now, as they may not ever be coming back. These days, the Harvest Moon series has been renamed Story of Seasons on the newer format. So if you look for a Harvest Moon game, you look for Story of Seasons now in English. There are still, Natsumi's still making newer Harvest Moon games, but they aren't anywhere near as good as the Story of Season games. And finally, one little stealthy one that I don't think many people will be aware of is Pac-Man 2, The New Adventures on SNES. Some of you might go, oh, never heard of that one. I hadn't really heard of it either. It's a pretty obscure Pac-Man game that was released in '94 and basically got little coverage. I never actually saw copies in the wild, but it's actually quite a good sort of puzzle adventure game. It feels like it should be a Nintendo Scope game actually, but it's not. However, the big caveat is Pac-Man The New Adventures features characters like Mrs. Pac-Man, Baby Pac-Man, Pac-Man Jr., etc. that are currently involved in quite a hefty royalties issue. There was a legal dispute back in 2019 and basically I think Namco didn't win it, so they've been taking out Mrs. Pac-Man and renaming her Pac-Mum in the latest collection. This version not only includes those characters, it also includes a version of Mrs. Pac-Man as an unlockable, which you're seeing here, and the original Pac-Man arcade. So this game not only comes with the new Pac Adventures, but you get Pac-Man and you get Mrs. Pac-Man. So Mrs. Pac-Man is unlikely to be reissued anytime soon due to the Namco's royalty spat with. I think it's At Games have currently bought up the royalty rights, and there's quite an unpleasantness. I thought Namco owned all the rights to Miss Pac-Man, but they obviously don't, which is a big mistake on their part. I know there was originally a legal issue over the fact that it was an unlicensed game, but I thought they got all the rights. Clearly they didn't, and that's causing problems, and Namco are basically deciding they don't want to issue At Games with any royalties, so it's looking that they won't see Mrs. Pac-Man reissued again, so this game would have to be edited to be reissued. So do keep that in mind. I can't see this one being reissued anytime soon, and this was missing from some of the recent collections as well. Right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it. I hope you enjoyed this footage. Sorry the footage doesn't always match up with the relevant games I'm chatting about, but I'm just showing you this whole selection of games that will no longer be available in the near future. I thank you all for watching. My name, of course, has been Random Gamer Riven, and do, as I said, grab these games now while you still can. So that's it from me. If you want this stuff, I said download it now. You've only got days left, but come Monday, this shop will be gone for good, along with a lot of these games, and I said I think some of them will be lost forever because I don't think some have been correctly archived. So do download them now while you still can. As always, if you enjoyed this video, please do like our content here at Randomised Gaming. Please do hit that subscribe button as well, and you can also hit the bell notifications, and do check out our Tumblr blog, which I've got the spreadsheet list of for the 3DS DLC. And do check out our Twitch channel as well when I do streaming. I've not been streaming while I get all this stuff sorted, but I'll be back streaming. I'll probably look at some of the other Wii U games just gone now in the near future. But yeah, if you enjoyed this video, and you can support us if you liked it over on Ko-fi. I had to do a lot of research for the 3DS stuff because it's been so badly covered. And it's a bit of a shame that a lot of the archive societies don't appear to have solid lists of this stuff as well. So we can only hope. Sadly, I doubt very much Nintendo will give this a stay of execution. They are a merciless company. They are ruthless. They really shouldn't be given any sort of credit for having a family image. They don't. They are just merciless. And really, these shops should be staying up for a while longer. I think it's a bit disgraceful. This is their 10th anniversary gift for the 3DS and Wii U to you. They're shutting down the shop. That's it from me, everyone. I'll see you all in the next video.